Hello, it's Debbie Gilbert from the Business Awards Show, and I'm also the founder of the Best Business Women Awards and the Best SME Awards. Well, today I am joined by Kat Robson-Scarborough, who is an entrepreneur, franchisor, podcast host, and the co-founder of Your Man with a Van, which is one of the UK's most disruptive and fast-growing removal franchise brands. Kat has a business background in retail leadership and customer service. She combined her corporate experience with an entrepreneurial mindset to help build a franchise model that is reshaping a traditionally male-dominated industry. She is passionate about doing business differently, and Kat champions fair franchising, strong values, and genuine community support. Alongside a growing national franchise network, she also co-founded the United Kingdom Property Network, and she hosts podcasts focused on business, connection, and entrepreneurship. She is known for her energy, her honesty, and her people-first approach. And Kat is on a mission to prove that success comes from collaboration, courage, and challenging the status quo. So today she joins me to talk about her entrepreneurial journey, the realities of building a franchise brand, and the lessons she's learned along the way. Plus, we will also, of course, be talking about business awards and the role that has played in her business journey. So welcome, Kat.
Wow, oh my goodness, I don't really know how to follow that. Thank you, Debbie, and thank you for having me here with you.
Oh, it's lovely to talk to you about your business journey. And that's always where we start with the Business Awards show. So, as I spoke about the franchise, you now have 50 franchisees. So talk me through that journey and tell us all about your man with a van.
Oh my goodness. Well, so as you said, actually my background was in retail and customer service. And then I met my husband who completely turned my life upside down. He's an entrepreneurial spirit, as am I. But I had never really been out of the cage. I'd never been able to flex my wings, if you like. And he said, no, you should be doing your own business, doing your own thing. And so I actually went into property for a bit, but I joined Your Man with a Van. And Dan was the original Your Man with Van. So it's founded in Hertfordshire, Cambridgeshire. And he's somebody who does things properly, professional. Not what you would normally think of as a man with a van. He had standards, he cared about people. The five-star reviews just literally rolled in. And we got to the stage of thinking, well, we need to expand. Like, where do we go next? There are no more hours in the day to send Dan off working. What do we do? And we had the choice of expanding ourselves, having multiple vans, multiple people under one place, or we could potentially franchise. And the power of having a nationwide network of business owners, so they would run their own business, it would give opportunities to people all over the UK, and it would mean that the network could work together for bigger jobs and could share jobs. And, it would just become this trusted professional circle. So we launched the franchise just over 2 and a bit years ago. And yeah, now we're at 66 branches. I know, from Glasgow to Belfast to Exeter, to Harlow, Croydon. Yeah, it's incredible and it's amazing. But it's because of the people that we work with, the branch owners that have come on board, that have trusted us, and yeah, it's wonderful.
So talk me a bit about fair franchising because you really have been a disruptor in this marketplace. So tell me how you differentiate your franchise model to others.
So it's really interesting actually, because I think when most people think about franchising their business, you think, oh, I need an expert. I need somebody to come in and tell me how to do this. And, there are legal things that you need to bear in mind. There are areas of expertise you need to bear in mind. But we actually took on a franchise consultant, and I say it's the worst thing we could have done, but it's always part of the journey. They just wanted to make us a replication of everything that was already out there, basically the same standard. And for Dan and I, we saw the franchise industry as quite heavily weighted towards the franchisor. So, people would be in really long fixed contracts. They wouldn't necessarily get the support, the kindness, the coaching, the mentoring that they needed to succeed. And yet they would be paying the franchisor chunky fees at the beginning and then a percentage commission as well. So the better the branch
Mm.
does or the franchisee does, the more money the franchisor gets. And just none of that sat with us at all as human beings or as business owners. And we wanted to do something different. So we binned our consultant, and we just went with our gut instinct of what was right. And for us, it was about taking away some of the barriers so that it was truly accessible. So the entry fee is one of the lowest entry fees in the UK. Some people would say, oh, but does that mean you have a terrible level of franchisee? No, not at all, because we still do that due diligence and we still have that recruitment conversation. But it means that people who genuinely want to have their own business have an opportunity with us, and why shouldn't they? And then we decided on so whereas most franchises have a percentage commission model that you pay every month, we decided, well, I mean, you're kind of punishing people for doing really well. There's no, how's that fair? And it's very hard then for people to manage their cash flow. So we just said, right, whatever fee you sign up to when you join with us, that's the fee you pay every month. That's it. So whilst our fees have gone up as our franchise and brand have grown, actually the early adopters have got really low fees, and our current franchisees have still got really low fees compared to the rest of the market. So they know where they're at, they know what their costs are, and they can really take their branch. The sky's the limit, and they're not going to have to pay us anymore. The money goes in their pocket. And then the third thing was around the contracts. Like, I get 20, 30 years ago, people were in the same job for their life. And that's fine, but that's not how the world is now. There's so much change, there's so much development, and also people like the flexibility. We've got used to that, haven't we? So we decided instead of a 5 year or a 10-year contract, we would actually do a 30-day contract. So it's a rolling monthly contract. I know, I know. And whenever I
Mhm.
talk to other franchisors about this, their heads sort of fall off. But it does two things. It gives them the confidence that, do you know what, if it's not working or if life changes, if suddenly I've got to be a carer for my mum or I have a baby or whatever, I can change and I'm not going to lose this 50 grand investment. And it also means that the onus is on us as franchisors to deliver for our franchisees, or they'll just leave.
Mm.
And so, yeah, we put our money where our mouth is.
Amazing. And I think what I'm interested to know is, did you have experience of franchising before you did this, or did you just spend a lot of time doing the research, or both?
So it was a bit of both, really. So with some of the brands that I worked with in retail, I had experienced franchising on more of a global
Mm.
scale. So I'd seen the level of intricacies and the legalities, the conversations that had happened, the different factors that had to be considered. But that was really on a different scale because they were talking about, property locations and whole country takeovers. But I did have some visibility of that. Um, Other than that, though, I think as a retailer, you kind of like any small business owner, you have to have awareness of all of the parts of the puzzle. Whether it's operations, whether it's financial, whether it's people, whether it's marketing, you have to have your knowledge, at least a foundational knowledge of those different factors. And certainly running a retail business in the UK, I had to know what was going on my P&L and how to move the business forward. So I did a lot of research in terms of franchising and the legalities of franchising. The UK franchise market isn't actually anywhere near Well, it's basically not regulated in comparison to somewhere like the US, which is heavily regulated. So I also did a lot of research for the US as well to understand, okay, so if this regulation were to come along the track, what does that look like? And I looked at lots of what would they call them? They're like not-for-profit franchise groups as well to understand what they were looking for their members and what the topics of conversation were and what the barriers of entry were as well. So yeah, I mean, basically that's why we hired a consultant, right? Because we thought we've never been in franchising before, but
Mm.
actually there was nothing that the consultant could deliver to us that we can do ourselves.
Mm. So you did your own research and your own due diligence on it, which is
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah.
And you actually give out awards to your franchisees, which I love. So tell us a bit about this, because I think more people who run a business should be rewarding their employees or their franchisees in this way.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So again, in retail, it was just like a standard. You would do retail awards every year, and some people loved them, some people were indifferent to them. I don't think anybody hated them, but what it gave people was a sense of coming together, a sense of value, and a sense of, being cared about, like someone's noticed what I'm doing. And then I think when we started Your Man with a Van, a lot of people said to me, well, why would you put time into that? Because it is a lot of time. Well,
Mm.
but we do brand value awards. So actually, it's the branches who nominate each other. And so it takes time to get the nominations in, to G people along, to nominate other, all of those things. And it's a lot of effort. But I just think these guys and girls working in their own business, it is hard work every day. And yeah, you get thank yous from customers. And, we always try to say, well done, congratulations, thank you. But why not? Why wouldn't you celebrate the great things that have happened? And actually, I feel really motivated when I read, all of their feedback and what their peers think of them. And it's just, yeah, I just don't know why anyone wouldn't do it. It does take effort, but yeah, God, just do it.
And you do a social media post, don't you, to share that particular branch, what they've done, what's been said about them. And I
Yeah.
think that's a really powerful thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we try to get out on social as much as we can to basically cheerlead for these branches because we know how hard they work. We know how high their standards are. And so why not, do a wonderful review on social media? We aren't a huge cost franchise, so that means our budgets are a bit smaller. So we
Mm.
maybe can't afford to do a big conference. But what we can do is share that news with social
Mm.
and promote it as much as possible. So that's what we do.
It's a difficult thing with what you do to do a conference and get people in a room because these guys are out all day, every day, delivering removals, doing all of the things that they're doing. So doing it this way, at least they get that recognition, but without having to leave their business for a whole day and lose that money that they would
Absolutely.
be earning. So I think
Yeah.
it's a really, really important point. So you're nearly 3 years into this new business that you set up, which has been an outstanding success. What's been the biggest challenge? I'm sure there's been a lot, but what would you say has been the biggest challenge along the way?
Um, so I guess there's probably two.
Yeah.
The first one was when we first set up the franchise, and it was having the confidence to bin off the consultant and to say, we're not going to do what everybody else does, which, it all sounds great when you say it flippantly in a conversation with your friends, but when you're actually putting your business on the line,
Mm.
and your life on the line, this is the income for Dan and for me. So it's our
Mm.
family home. It's everything that we have, putting that on the line and risking it to go against the grain. That took courage, definitely, a little bit of crazy. Um, and then as people started to engage and to ask questions and to, give positive feedback, quite often we were getting people saying, well, that can't be right. this has got to be too good to be true. I know, I know. And how do you answer that? I mean, one of the things like Dan always talks to the prospects, he always says, call any branch. Just call any branch, just talk to them because they're all their own people. They all have different stories, do, different skill sets, but they all come from different places, but they've come to us and joined the group for a reason.
Mm.
So yeah, I think that was probably the biggest challenge and continuing that level of confidence while we were building up a basic, um, you know, contingent of franchisees. And then the second obvious challenge is when you have, 66 franchises. And we've built a network. So we have like a WhatsApp chat for the UK, so everybody can chat and share and everybody is different. So it's getting everybody to realize that everybody's in different places in the country react differently to different
Yeah.
things. And, you've all got to learn to work together, to gel together. And that's a lot more difficult when you're remote and you're running your own business, as well as building with the network. But there are some wonderful relationships there.
That's amazing. Well done. And then alongside this, you built the United Kingdom Property Network. So talk a bit about that, because that's kind of
And
quite different to your man with a van.
it is very different, actually. So, before when I left retail, I started up an Airbnb. I'd always had kind of an interest in property, and we became like investors on in our hobby time, our free time that we have lots of, obviously. But as I kind of spent more and more time in the property industry and networking, I just found that basically every network was a sales pitch.
Mm,
And that's not for me at all. And it used to really frustrate me because I genuinely just wanted to share knowledge, share tips, get to know people, and yeah, just spend time with people within the same industry. So Dan and I had this crazy idea. Well, it was probably my crazy idea that he supported, but we thought, okay, so why don't we start a free property network? No strings, people don't pay, and there is no sponsorship. We did do one event, caveat, in the summer, which was a summer party, and we had sponsors, but they weren't allowed to pitch. It was
mm,
just all of these drinks are sponsored by da da da. That was it. So it wasn't hard selling
mm,
or anything like that. And yeah, so we actually started the Hertfordshire Property Network, first of all.
mm,
And I think we did one evening a month, and it was in a local like pub restaurant, which was great because it was on a Tuesday night, so it got loads of people through the door for them. Nobody had to buy a drink, but pretty much everybody does.
mm.
So it showcases their business to more people without pressure. And I think, yeah, at our peak, we had 120 attendees, which
Wow.
is
Yeah.
bonkers, absolutely bonkers. And I'm still in touch with loads of them. And actually, two of our best friends we met doing the property network. And then we thought, okay, if this works in Hertfordshire, my network's across the UK in property. Let's reach out to some of these great people who have the same values and see if any of them are interested. And yeah, we got to the end of the first year and got to 16 counties. And again,
Amazing.
I know. The thing is, it's amazing what you can do when you take money out of it or you put the
Mm,
priority on actually what the experience is and what you want to experience as a human. And I hate being sold to. But we we got to the end of that year, and actually Dan and I had a night off for once, and we were in a spa. And when you finally decompress,
mm,
you can actually think clearly.
mm,
And your man with the van it was just so busy. And I said to Dan, I think we need to hand this over. Like
mm.
this baby that we've, nursed and created. I think it's time to hand it over to somebody else to take the mantle and run with it. And we could have put a value on it. We could have done all sorts of things, I guess, but we didn't. We gave it to one of the strongest supporters, and a lady called Penny now runs it.
Brilliant. And
Yeah.
are you still involved with it?
No, not at all. I barely have time to breathe now because we've got a 22-month-old toddler. So between that and your man with a lad, it's pretty. I
So
know,
the baby and among all of this,
I
setting up
know, I know.
networks, franchises, but it does feel to me like everything you touch turns to gold, which is a good
Oh.
dovetail into talking about business awards. So tell me about your experiences of business awards and how that's impacted your business so far.
So, my experience of business awards, I would say is mixed.
Mm,
I think sadly, I'm just gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it.
that's
I
okay.
think most awards out there are basically already predetermined or, you know, fixed sounds really harsh, but I think they're basically predetermined. And it's kind of a tick box process to make money.
Mm,
And I get it, every business needs to make money, but I do think that I went into awards thinking that they were a kind of fair, equitable experience for everybody that enters. And that's not been my overall experience so far. However, that doesn't mean that they are not valuable. So for our business, I mean, I think we maybe got 8 in our first year,
that's amazing.
which was completely bonkers. And but the one that stood out was we won the FSB Southwest Franchise of the Year.
And
And
they are very credible,
yeah,
FSB. Yeah.
exactly. And then we went to the national finals and I was heavily pregnant. I think I was like 36 weeks pregnant. And I said to Dan, I am not missing this. I'm not missing this. But that was a wonderful experience. Um, and then they've just kind of kept ticking along and coming along. But what it does for us is it just increases our credibility
Mm,
and it increases the visibility of the brand for all of the branches, which benefits all of them. And that's what's most important to us. You know, A, people can trust us, but B, people can trust our branches and they
mm.
know that it's a fantastic service and they should get in touch with their local. And yeah, I mean, our most recent kind of biggie was the Elite Franchise Top
Yeah.
100.
Which we
So
support. Yeah, we
yeah,
partner with
so
them.
we got
Yeah.
listed in the top 100 in year 2 of our business, which is just completely bananas, completely bananas. But that was absolutely wonderful. And the recognition that's come with that as well
Mm.
has been amazing. But now, of course, the pressure is on because we have to be in there for year 2 or year 3, I should say. So, gosh, heck.
I'm pretty sure you will make that. I mean, I think you have made tremendous strides already in your industry, but also as a franchisor generally. Let's talk about podcasting. So, talk me through what you're doing with that at the moment.
Oh, sure. So, I joined MBN, which is the
Hmm.
Motivational Business Network. And basically, I'd had a conversation with Brad Burton, who is my favorite speaker of all time. I am a girl fan. But genuinely, he was the only person that's ever inspired me when speaking. And met Nikki Butlin, who is the MD of the Motivational Business Network, and I met you through there as well. Just everybody I've met has been inspiring is not a big enough word.
Mm.
Uh, it's been absolutely amazing, the experience. And so when Brad and Nikki said to me, "Oh, do you fancy doing a bit of podcasting?" I thought, yeah, I'd love to. I get to interview all these amazing people. Bear in mind, I had never done a podcast before in my life.
I didn't know that.
No, never, never.
Sounds really professional, actually.
Oh, thank you. I've done lots of interviews. You know, in
Mm.
retail, you're used to being customer facing, and we try to do lots of content for your man with van as well. So I'm kind of used to that bit. But the technical side, I was thinking, oh my days, this could be the end of me, because that is just not, it's not my bag. But there's a lovely app. Can I name it? Should I
Yeah,
name it?
yeah, yeah.
It's
Do.
called Alitu
Hmm.
that somebody recommended to me, and it just makes things just nicer and less techie detailed to do. So you can record on it, you can edit on it, you promote through it. So I've just been using that, and I've been so lucky to get to interview these people. Honestly, I just see it as a privilege, you know. Uh,
What's the name of the podcast?
so it's called the MBN podcast. Now what? And you can get it on Spotify or Apple.
Oh, cool. We'll make sure some of that is we'll put that into the show notes as
Oh,
well
thank
so
you.
people can listen. Okay, so let's talk about the plans going forward. So you've now got to this stage of 66 franchisees. What is the plan over the next couple of years?
Well, I would really like to have a holiday at some point. So we have obviously scaled very quickly,
Mm,
and that's absolutely fine when you're at that kind of dinky stage and that startup stage. But now we're at a kind of more serious business stage. So
mm,
actually, the first half of this year has been all about systemization and structure and making sure we have that solid base in
yeah.
place to be able to then scale for the next,
Mm,
X number. So our goal is to get to 100 franchisees this year.
right.
That is our goal. I'm putting it out there and putting my name on the line. But we had to make sure this structure was in place because we don't want to get any bigger and then just fall over.
Hmm.
It's about making sure we can deliver everything we want to deliver, everybody's safe, everybody's happy, and that our customers still get a great experience. So 100 franchisees by the end of the year, I hope. That's the aim.
Yeah.
And then if we do that, we will basically have doubled our number of franchisees each year.
Mm,
But that would mean that by the end of the following year, we would need to be at 200.
mm,
So I don't know. It kind of depends on the market the second half of this year as well, because it does feel really gloomy out there.
mm,
There's lots going on, there's lots of negativity, but we genuinely, the market has responded really positively to what we're offering. But we've got nothing, we can't do anything about the things outside of our control. So we'll see what happens. It feels like we're going to be more kind of recruitment focused for the second half of this year. And then that will depend on where we kind of stretch to next year.
And I mean, you're in an industry that is not being impacted by AI because people still need men and muscle to move furniture and to move goods. And, at the end of the day, everybody now, I think, who is in business is looking at their business and saying, is my business AI proof? Am I going to get replaced by a robot one day? But at the moment, I think you're quite safe. And how have you used AI in your business so far to help you with your systems and processes, or is it something you haven't touched yet?
So it's really interesting actually because so Dan is like he's a typical guy. I'm sure I'm allowed to say that, but he loves tech and toys and he was always banging on about AI and all these things. But actually we so he was always at the front of trying new products.
Hmm.
Whereas I was kind of like, "Ugh, just come to me when it works, because that's what we probably found over the last 2 years until this year. There's been lots of products out there in terms of AI, and a lot of them have been more of a hindrance than a help, either because of inaccuracies or slow processing or whatever it is. But this year, actually, through MBN, we have teamed up with a amazing chap called Gary Robertson, and he basically has this system called a three brain system. And so it's not a out of the box solution, which is where I think we were coming up against lots of issues because we're not out of the box, we're different.
Mm.
And we've got two sides to our business, right? We've got recruiting franchisees and we've got promoting the franchisees and their businesses. But yeah, so anyway, Gary's got this system that has these three brains that basically learn your business better than you know it yourself. So they learn all the branding, they learn how you talk, they learn what your goals, your dreams, your aspirations are, everything about it. And we've actually started introducing it into our sales pipeline. That doesn't take away the human element though, because it's still really important to us that we meet them at least online, face to face, and that we can look into their eyes and make sure they're the right people. But it does take away some of it helps us to filter down the people who are actually
Mm.
serious and the people who've just been scrolling and clicking or don't really know what it is. So it's definitely been a time saver in that respect. We also, I was just thinking, we also use things like note takers, to help us if we're trying to take notes in a big meeting, or quite often, we're super busy on meetings and it's just easier to record a voice note and then Claude will turn it into a legible something that you can present. So there are definitely tools out there that are making our lives easier, but I think it's as much about avoiding those that just either create rubbish content that you want to stay away from, or that actually make your lives harder because you're spending more time trying to sense check and correct the AI. I think personally as well, I'm quite aware that there is a social cost to
Mm.
AI. And I like to kind of liken it to the Industrial Revolution.
Mm.
It was a huge change, and lots of people won and lots of people lost. And I just keep thinking, okay, so in this arena that we find ourselves in, how do we make sure we don't have lots of people losing? How do we make sure that we bring them with us? If we know that it's going to impact all these jobs, why don't we do something about it? Let's transition these people to roles that will be needed, because people are going to be needing to learn how to do prompts, how to sense check AI, all of these things. Um, yeah, so I think there's great opportunity there, but I also understand the hesitations, and it's not ever going to replace humans. Like, it doesn't have an emotion. And we just have to remember that, really.
Yeah, and it's quite scary, isn't it? The things that are going on out there. Because you posted yesterday about the parcel drops,
Drones, yeah.
the drones doing that. And I was thinking, yeah, I agreed with what you were saying because, we've all had the every driver that's thrown it over our hedge or our fence. But actually, I suppose I'm one of these people. My kids always say this about me. I always think of every risk, and I'd be thinking, God, there could be things dropping out of the sky and hitting a human or
Yeah.
killing an animal or, causing something to spill out that was damaging to the environment. I don't know. It's a
No,
weird one,
but
isn't it?
it's so true. And I think the biggest thing is that a big part of us has to trust that these companies who are implementing solutions actually do their due diligence and actually do care enough to check about the environmental factors. So that to me is a no-brainer. Nothing hazardous goes in a drone.
Yeah,
That's it. You
that's true.
know, you're not sending knives in a drone, because that's just that it makes no sense. But also, I look at it on, the other side as a consumer. We're busy people. We hardly ever get to the shops. Basically everything lands at our door.
Mm.
And it'd be so great if they could just drop it in
Yeah.
the garden when we're not here, instead of accidentally ending up down there, or me having to go to the post office, or and I read a stat, I think it was this morning actually, and it was for app-based courier drivers. So there are lots of different companies that use them. 78% of them report that they are too tired to be driving, but they continue driving anyway.
Yeah,
And
which
there
would
are
probably correlate with the high numbers of accidents. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing
Mm.
is, there's lots wrong with that whole sentence,
Mm.
like why are we having this industry where people are paid so little, where so
Mm.
much is taken away from them, that they feel like they have to drive when they're basically asleep and put themselves and other people in danger? That's a whole shebang. But then also, if the kind of useless little items can be taken away and it saves the big wigs some money, and
Mm.
then those big companies put the money into properly paying and training and supporting their drivers, it becomes a whole different cycle, but obviously that depends on people doing the right thing, and committing to find these people who potentially are going to lose work.
Mm.
How do we upskill them and transition them and help them rather than just leaving them?
Yeah, that's true. And do you give your franchisees a steer on how many hours they should be driving for when they're doing their
So
their
there's legal limits as
Mm.
to how many hours you can drive
Mhm.
within a set amount of time and how long a break has to be.
Right.
The challenge is when you have small vehicles, so any vehicle under, I think it's 3.5 tons, doesn't have to have a tachograph.
Mm.
So it doesn't have to have something that registers the amount of time driving or report there's basically minimal reporting. And then you couple that with the kind of gig economy where people are just being paid peanuts. And you can totally understand how it all amalgamates into people feeling like they've got no option. They've got this job or this list of jobs to do, and they want the company to rehire them. So they want to get them all done, and they want the money that comes from each drop off. But it's really, really hard for those people. We get quite a lot of courier drivers that we speak to who say, I just can't, like, I can't do it anymore, but how do I get out of it?
Mm. Well,
Uh,
your franchise does offer them that opportunity, I guess, doesn't
it
it?
does, but at the same time, it's got to be for the right people,
Mm.
people who just want to sort of turn up at 9, do the job, and go home and not worry about it. It's not for
No.
them.
Because there's so much that has to go on behind the scenes to get the business off the ground, but also keeping those customers coming back to them on getting new ones all the time. So that is quite a big job, isn't it? It's not like they're being given a list of jobs. They've got to go out and find those jobs themselves, haven't they?
Yeah, and that's a huge, apart from anything else, it's just a huge mindset shift.
Mm.
Like the first time when you go into business, suddenly you don't have a list of to-dos for the day. You don't have a structured whatever it is in your calendar. It's up to you what your priorities are. And some people really thrive on that, and other people it's terrifying. And it's just kind of figuring out who those people are, whether they can get from A to B, or whether actually, a job role would be better. And we just have those honest conversations because there's nothing wrong with having a job.
No,
You've got to do what's right for you. And we wouldn't want people to join us that aren't right for us. And likewise, it'd be the wrong thing for them.
very true. So, shall we finish off with one business tip? If somebody's listening to this podcast and they're thinking, shall I franchise my business? What's the one tip you could share with them?
So, if you are considering franchising your business, you need to make sure your business has proof of concept. And I know that
Mm.
sounds a bit not very exciting, but that is the bones of your franchise. Like we had over a decade of Dan doing what he did, proving that it could get through ups, downs, the financial crash, pretty much everything apart from, we were just at the end of the COVID, but still, we managed to get through all of those things. And I think if your business is 2 years old, that's not old enough, really. You can risk it, but there's no kind of credibility there. And also for you, you don't know what all the challenges are that your franchisees are going to face. Of course, there are going to be new things coming over the hill that we don't know about. But it is very rare that one of our franchisees says, "Oh, I'm stuck with this," and we haven't experienced it. And that means that they trust us because they know that you've got that longevity. It also means that you've got the processes in place. You know what works in terms of marketing, in terms of the financials. It just all of that, how a business survives. I think you do have to have that credibility piece and that knowledge piece, which comes with time. And time is something that, in my experience, we're not that good at right now. We want everything like now, now, now. But time is what saves you and your potential franchisees from real problems.
Yeah, I think that's really strong advice, actually. And I think sometimes people see it as a shortcut to expansion, but it has to be at the right time
Yeah.
when you've got the right level of experience and knowledge behind you. And that only comes, I mean, I honestly think 5 years at least you need to run your business before you franchise it. That's just my two penny worth.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you started considering franchising in January and you thought that it was the right thing to do, you would need to work on that franchise until December to be
Mm,
ready to launch the following January. It's not sort of, oh, here you
mm,
go, off you go, wander around. There's a lot that has to be thought about, and I don't know. I think yeah, I think it does take real thought and time and structure to think about what your prospective franchisees will need, what
mm,
they'll want, the challenges you're going to face, the resources you need to provide, and all of these things as well. Even once you've started, they change. So pretty much all of the resources that we provided 2 years ago, they've all been updated at some point, at least once. So you've also got that whole factor to bear in mind. So yeah, I would say don't rush,
mm.
do it
Take
right, and prove that the model works.
brilliant advice. Well, thank you for joining me today.
Oh,
It's been
thank
a
you so
pleasure.
much.
It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. If you've been listening to today's episode, we are going to add Kat's details into the show notes. And this could be useful if you know somebody who wants a franchise with removals, or you might live in an area where Kat has one of her franchisees and you need help with moving items and products, furniture, whatever it is.
Anything.
Anything. And we'll also add a link into the show notes for the podcast and details of the MBN network. And we might as well put the details of your property network. I know that you're
Yeah,
not
sure.
doing it anymore, but you did start it. And I think it'd be good if anyone's listening to the podcast who's got property. We'll pop the details of the United Kingdom Property Network in there as well. Plus Kat's contact details. She's on LinkedIn and all the other major platforms out there. So connect up with her because she really has a wealth of knowledge to share. So thank you for joining me, Kat.
Thank you so much, Debbie. Total pleasure.
Brilliant. Thank you.